and it's day 2 of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Just a while ago, there was the inauguration and a photo op that took place with the leaders there, as you see on your screens right now. Now it's the day 2 of the 25th Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Earlier, PM Modi arrived at the SCO Summit venue. He was accompanied by NSA The World Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. They were on the round table where Chinese president gave the opening statement and addressed the SCO leaders in Tianjin. I want to give us more details. Joining us live from the city of Tianjin at the heart of the summit venue is our assistant editor for foreign affairs, Sidhan Sibu. Thank you so much, Sidhan. We were just talking to you a while ago about the whole photo op that we just saw. Tell us more what's take place.
Well, a short while ago, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the summit. We saw the visuals. We are still to get to know the details of what the conversation was like, the address was like. And I'm pretty sure the focus from the Indian side, as has been in the past as well, would have been on the issues like counterterrorism, on cross-border terrorism, on connectivity, on the cultural aspect, and how at a time when there have been global changes that the world has witnessed, this grouping can essentially be a factor of stability. Now, we will also get to know very soon on the bilateral meetings, the meeting between the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Russian President Vladimir Putin. And both the leaders are going to discuss issues like the upcoming visit of the Russian President Vladimir Putin to India for the annual summit, issues like connectivity, issues like trade, issues like people-to-people interaction, especially visa-free facilities for Indians to travel to Russia. India, of course, is going to highlight its concerns over trade deficit. But coming back to SCO, what was in a sense a moment that caught the attention of everyone was the informal conversation, the visuals. It is obviously something that everyone does, especially at the media room, is to observe the body language. And we saw the leaders of RIC, Russia, India, China, engaging with each other and having that informal conversation. We also saw the Pakistani Prime Minister looking the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Russian President Vladimir Putin having a conversation, and the Pakistani Prime Minister standing, of course, behind. I do expect a meme fest to start very soon, but that aside, jokes aside, we know that this grouping is a grouping that has come of age in many ways. In the last 20 years, over 20 years, 2001 was the year when it came into being, starting with Russia, China, and Central Asian countries, the 4 Central Asian countries. It has grown in its size, in its the dimensions in many senses, whether it's a population factor, whether it's the economic factor. 2 of the most populous countries on the planet, that is India and China, are its members. One of the largest set of economies are its members, whether it is China, the 2nd largest economy, whether it is India, the 5th largest economy, soon to be the 4th largest economy, and other countries as well. In fact, this grouping has the potential to be the central pillar of the stability in the region. And of course, this grouping's emergence comes at a time when the United Nations is seen very dysfunctional. It is seen as a grouping that basically is not heading towards anything. We saw how United Nations during the COVID crisis, during the war in Ukraine, was seen simply as a bystander. Even as G20, another grouping, was basically providing all the financial support, especially in that domain. But SCO is a grouping that is led by China and Russia. India just became its members almost a decade ago, I would say. And since then, it has been playing an important role in terms of contributing to the grouping's priorities. In fact, the grouping started with its key 3 focus areas, where one is terrorism, one is extremism, and one is separatism. And this is something that India has been highlighting even just before the summit started.
Absolutely. And it's right, you mentioned about the 3 issues, the extremism, of course, terrorism, and the summit has evolved from that to now economy as well. And of course, this comes after the Trump trade war. Talk to us about how this has evolved from, talking about the terrorism and of course, border issues, and now has evolved into economy as well.
Well, this has been the case for other groupings as well. Like, for example, G20 started as a grouping that was formed after the 2008 financial crisis. Then we had the BRICS grouping that was primarily an economic grouping of the emerging economies, BRICS being Brazil, India, Russia, China. It was BRIC, it became BRICS with the addition of South Africa. And then today we have almost 9 member countries. SCO also started, as I pointed out, with Russia, China, and 4 Central Asian countries. But increasingly, whether it's the SCO, whether it's the G20, whether it's the BRICS, they're taking increased political role as well. When UN is seen dysfunctional, it is seen as not taking forward the reform, and focus from these grouping has been to provide a regional solution to regional problems, but also global problems as well. So there's several elements to this debate which can continue for a long time, but particularly I'll go with what's happening here at the SCO. This grouping this year is focusing on challenges like economic security, especially in the time of Donald Trump's tariffs.
Right, absolutely. And now, just to also tell our viewers what's happening right there, you're there as well. PM Modi, as we talked about, Indian Prime Minister, will be speaking as well. And not just before he delivers his remark, the leader also posted photos of himself walking through the SCO venue and exchanging views with Putin and Xi that we just discussed with our assistant editor as well. The light moment that we saw that was shared between the 3 leaders. Of course, we could see his visible delight. And, we need to see what kind of message will this now send to the U.S. We know that we got comments from Navarro a few hours before now. What kind of message will it send to U.S.? And, of course, how is the West looking at this summit now?
Well, the West is always suspicious of SCO grouping. In fact, we know that there have been commentary in Western newspapers over SCO's rise as well. But we know that what's happening this time around will be closely observed, especially in Washington, where, of course, we have seen how there has been commentary. Donald Trump has basically putting the entire global economic order into tizzy with his Trumps. And SCO, of course, can be seen as a factor of stability, where there are, of course, rules-based order in terms of countries to have conversation with each other. So this grouping is seen anti-Western by the West, by the Eurasians. It is seen non-Western. It essentially depends on where you are standing, and you will have a perspective for the grouping. But this is a grouping which is not only here to stay, but this is a grouping which is here to grow as well. And this grouping's role is primarily regional cooperation, dealing with issues like separatism, terrorism, extremism. So there are many convergences in this grouping to have talks about. But for the West, the outcomes do really matter, because at a time when Donald Trump's tariffs have been changing or bringing the earthquake in the geopolitical and economic order, this grouping is seen as a relatively stable grouping, where there is increased chances of cooperation, especially for the smaller countries. Remember, not only the member countries are present here this time, but there are other countries in the region who are present, including from the Indian subcontinent, which includes Nepal and Maldives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, again, to reiterate, we saw the Indian Prime Minister sharing the pictures on social media of the interactions there. Of course, we'll have to see how this all pans out going through the day, looking at the next meet between Russian President Putin and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Of course, thank you so much, Siddhant, for sharing all the details there. We'll come back to you after we get more updates.